And now I'd like to welcome Alice Sylvester of Sequent Partners, who's going to talk with a bunch of the identity resolution providers and get a little bit more of a perspective on the different solutions that are now available in this space. So welcome, Alice.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much for participating in this panel. Today, we're going to hear from our colleagues at LiveRamp and Experian and Blockgraph and InfoSum, and we have some very interesting questions that will hopefully shed some light on some of the areas of really an area that influences so many aspects of data quality, data accuracy, and it's really the linchpin of data matching, and that's the ID graphs. So my first question to all my panelists, please, is that I would like them to introduce themselves very, very briefly and tell us a small amount, a couple of sentences, about what aspects of identity resolution and data matching that clients come to you for. We know that clients have multiple ID resolution providers. How do you position yourselves? We'll start with Aimee.
I'm Aimee Irwin. I lead strategy and partnerships for Experian. And at Experian, while we're probably most known as a credit bureau, we also serve marketers. And specifically, you asked around identity. We have consumer data for marketing, but we're also known for our privacy-friendly, safe and matching capabilities, which is rooted in our offline PII. And do a lot of work to help marketers connect their first-party data, experience data, as well as other third-party data to the ecosystem, to various places where they want to activate that data. And we do a lot of work in the TV space, and I'm really looking forward to discussing that with the rest of the panelists today.
Very good, thank you. Jason from Blockgraph, can you tell us why clients come to you and a little bit about you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Jason Manningham, founder and CEO of Blockgraph. Blockgraph, for those who don't know, is a privately held partnership between Comcast, Charter, and Viacom-CBS, but built to serve the entirety of the cross-platform TV ecosystem. A bit about the company and where people would come to us. Primarily, we're a privacy-focused data and identity infrastructure, serving exclusively the cross-platform TV ecosystem. Our technology helps companies match data on a peer-to-peer basis and connects the data and insights in a household by applying various privacy protections and data controls for first-party data owners. I think the areas where people most often come to us is being able to deterministically at scale understand an audience across all forms of television, whether that's linear, addressable, or digital, CTV. And we can help our companies provide deterministic identity capabilities in a privacy-focused way.
Excellent. Matthew, LiveRamp. Who ever heard of that?
Yeah, who the heck is LiveRamp? Hi, so I'm Matt Emans. I am lead measurement products at LiveRamp. I joined LiveRamp by way of the Data+Math acquisition. And as many of you know, LiveRamp is really the leader in the space in providing a neutral ecosystem for connecting identity across platforms between brands and publishers and platforms. And we pride ourselves both in privacy by design and thinking about privacy first, and in being able to combine assets both from the offline and online world to connect experiences and measurement, both from the digital ecosystem, but also with the offline representation of people's actions and consumption of media, et cetera. And so brands and publishers most often come to LiveRamp when they want a neutral, interconnected way to bring identity and data from brands and activate it on publisher platforms, and then measure their impact of that through delivery.
Excellent. Richard from InfoSum. Why do clients?
Hello, everybody. Sorry, Alice. I'm Richard Lloyd. I lead product globally for InfoSum. We're not an identity resolution provider per se. We're a tech business. We're a data collaboration technology. And we actually solve many different problems, but identity resolution is one of the problems that our clients use our technology to solve for. I guess the thing that's unique about our technology is we think of data collaboration in a fundamentally decentralized form. So the way that we approach identity resolution is, rather than creating the notion of a centralized ID graph, we actually enable our clients to build their own decentralized identity networks. So it's all fundamentally peer-to-peer based in terms of individual businesses collaborating with one another to solve identity problems. And I guess our clients come to us to solve these problems because we help them with two issues fundamentally. We help them with the issue of commercial trust. Our platform doesn't require our parties to share data with one another fundamentally. So you don't have the issues that historically result from parties having to ultimately give their data to one another in order to enable, a measurement use case or a targeting use case. And we're also fundamentally privacy by design, because that same collaboration process that doesn't involve the movement of data also prevents personal data or PII being transferred, across domains between entities. So it's a fundamentally much more privacy safe way of transacting from a measurement perspective, from a targeting perspective, and so on.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to ask Jason and Aimee the question, why are there so many different types and different ID resolution currently out there? Is there going to be a coalescing around a particular approach? Will there be a universal ID or industry solution to come out of this?
Sure, Aimee, I can jump in, and I can start and jump in as you see fit, of course. So our perspective is that there will be a variety of universal IDs that come to fruition throughout the industry. And there are various scenarios where different IDs are better for certain environments. If you think about TV, which is what we are focused on at Blockgraph exclusively, I think what you see is that there are certain identity owners in the ecosystem, first-party data owners, who have deterministic understanding of viewing and exposure within their footprint. Adding up those environments, I think, is really challenging. Historically, however, now with new technologies that allow them to keep control over their data without having to share it, that opens up a variety of cross-platform TV use cases that have been challenging in the past with kind of lower match rates. I think when it comes to the broader industry, though, there will be different scenarios for different ID providers. And Aimee, I'll let you kind of weigh in, because I know you guys are serving a variety of use cases beyond just TV. So maybe you have a great perspective there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I read in a recent study that on average, advertisers and agencies are using at least four identity solution providers today. And that same study said the expectation was they were going to spend more on identity resolution in 2021 and beyond, and potentially use more providers. And that makes sense in light of what's happening with the deprecation of third-party cookies, potential changes to, or changes that will impact the availability of IDFA. We expect a lot of solutions in sort of the next couple of years, a lot of testing on the part of advertisers and agencies. And our perspective is, as Jason noted, like there's going to be different solutions that are better for different things. And it's going to take the industry a little while to figure out, how many we need and how far we get with respect to addressability with identity solutions before we have to go to other things like modeling and cohorts and all sorts of other things that I think we'll end up at. And then in the TV world, I think it's even sort of more complicated for the fact that you have the traditional the MVPDs, the companies that have deep subscriber level data that they can match on at an individual household level on a PII basis, which we've done traditionally. But then you also have connected TV world and a whole host of other identifiers there. And so that's not just an identity question, that's also just a technology and a buying question in terms of as an advertiser, can you buy across all of those different devices in a way that allows you to understand how your audience is really being reached, which is another sort of complicating factor that we're not going to I'm sure, on this panel, but another driver to the variety of solutions.
Excellent.
I might hop in there just briefly and stress one point, which is to say, I would concur that there isn't going to be a single ID system to rule them all. And I think an important thing for folks to think about as they're looking at who their identity providers are is to think about interoperability and an open platform. So, knowing that each one of these solutions is going to be dominant in different ways. We like the fact that there's healthy competition and that we're all pushing the state of the art forward. But we want to think about the fact that, a brand working with one of these providers needs to interoperate with publishers that select a different solution, or a platform, a walled garden platform in the TV industry. And so we really want to stress the opportunity for there to be an interoperable ecosystem here that enables both brands and publishers to work with different identity solutions in as seamless a way as possible, because the industry is going to benefit by reducing friction, not by a monopoly.
Great, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about how marketers with their 4+ identity resolution solutions assesses the quality of the solution and the data matching that results from this. And what does the industry need? What kind of guidance do you need from the industry in order to continue focusing on data accuracy? I'm going to start with Richard.
It's a really interesting question. I mean, I'm going to give you a UK perspective on this. If you haven't guessed from my accent, I'm not actually based in the US, so apologies. I'm going to give you a slightly different flavor to the rest of the panel here. Before my role at InfoSum, I spent a decade in Group M, so I've got a wealth of experience on the buy side, and the bulk of that time in Group M was actually spent in a variety of measurement analytics leadership roles. And I guess what I would say, drawing upon my Group M experience, is there are almost two opposite ends of the spectrum that we're seeing converging now from a measurement perspective specifically. So when I think about the kind of measurement work that we used to do for clients at Group M, on the one end of the spectrum, you have panel-based approaches. If you think about the traditional linear TV measurement world, it's all very much panel-based. Historically, at least, it was very much panel-based. And even in the digital world, there are a host of measurement solutions that exist and are, very valuable, which are panel-based. And generally in the panel-based world, quality of data is paramount. There's a huge amount of effort that goes into the curation of the panel by the measurement providers themselves, ensuring that the panel is statistically representative of the general population. It's almost it's the sort of the hallmark of a quality measurement solution that the panel is fundamentally representative rather. At the other end of the spectrum, of course, you've got, I guess, what we would have thought historically of as sort of multi-touch attribution or sort of census level measurement, which fundamentally is built around observations of consumers kind of in the wild, if you like, without necessarily caring about who those consumers are. And in that world, we never really cared about the quality of the underlying data. That sounds really harsh, but we just kind of assumed that because there was so much data, because it was effectively a case of just, listening to almost the fire hose of everything that was happening on the internet, you just assumed that the data would kind of work itself out and you'd get to the right answer in the end. And of course, what we're finding as time goes on is neither of those solutions now represents an adequate approach, because we've got scalability issues on the one hand with panel-based approaches, and we've got what I would describe as coverage and consistency issues on the other end of the spectrum, in terms of, the inability to look, across channels, the inability to look, into walled gardens and so on and so forth. So we're seeing, that world move closer to the panel world and vice versa. Now, what we haven't figured out, being honest, is as we start to, move away from, a purely curated panel in terms of data quality, how do we assess independently the integrity of the underlying basis for the measurement itself? How do we determine that the audience that we're looking at from a measurement perspective is genuinely representative of the underlying population? And there are some things that are being tried by the industry, but I wouldn't say that we've necessarily got a solution right now.
Excellent. I'm going to tighten that question. I'm just going to ask all of the panelists to answer the question on what guidance do you think would be most useful to you in this area of ensuring accuracy of identity resolutions and data matching going forward. We unfortunately have 3 minutes left. Aimee.
Well, I mean, I think definitions, just straight definitions of exactly what you mean by matching, by language. I think that would be enormously important. I think, I know when I was a client looking at various solutions, the term match rate didn't always mean the same thing to various providers. So I would say just a level setting on definitions would be a huge step forward. There's clearly other things that that could be looked at, but if you're not speaking the same language, those things probably matter less.
Great. Matthew, what guidance would you appreciate from the industry to aid accuracy?
Sure. And I actually might go, if you don't mind, just slightly afield from this. I think that accuracy is important and we can all test ourselves against truth sets along the way. Related is the issue of householding. So something that's a real challenge, in terms of looking at both this definition of what you're looking at for match rates and about how accurate these things are is a common definition of a household. And it is super important in the TV world, which I know we're intimately connected to here. And so I would encourage the industry and folks here to think carefully about how householding occurs as they're trying to work with different identity systems.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, I would echo exactly what both Aimee and Matt said. And then I would take it one step further and ask for people to really think through, when you're talking about identity, it's a means to an end. So what are we trying to do and what are the specific use cases? Because at the end of the day, identity is helping you either reach an audience, measure an audience, and being able to, or target an audience, being able to decipher the difference between identity and what you're trying to do is, I think, really important in moving the industry forward.
Excellent. I want to thank my panelists. I promise you the next time we're together, we're going to have a 4-hour panel and we're going to get through all these fun questions and we will interact with each other and yell at each other and say how wrong or how right we are. Okay, I'm going to turn this over. Thank you so much. Turn it back over to Jane.
Thanks, Alice.
Thanks so much, Alice and Jason, Matt, Aimee, and Richard. And I completely agree with Alice. I think we definitely need another session with a deeper dive more into this topic. I'll put it in the planning.